What I've done here since the last video is just removed the AAA configuration from router 3. So we've got the IP address on there, that whole bit. We're going to do a little bit more telnetting here because I want to go one step further here and show you a couple of the commands in action that we saw in iOS help in the previous video. Because a couple of these, the password prompt and username prompt commands, not terribly common, but I want you to see them. There's one little tiny, I wouldn't even call it a gotcha, just one little detail you got to watch. And with a couple of the other ones, like the login commands and the failure message, just as we need to configure a login banner for legal reasons, we may want to do that right here, when people are trying to telnet in. And we can actually do that with an AAA command as well to put a banner up. Just, only employees of company X, should go beyond this point or attempt to go beyond this point. Something like that. So let's just go ahead and take a little time with that. And right off, I've got something odd here. Why am I getting unrecognized command here? Aren't I in the right mode? I am in the right configuration mode, but I didn't enable AAA. If you caught that, good catch. And hey, just stepping aside, just you and me for a second here. I know you're tired of hearing about AA new model command. You're probably seeing it a lot in whatever books you're reading or anything like that. Certainly if I wrote it, you'll see it pretty often. But it's so easy to forget. And especially in a lab environment, because you just sit down and you want to start knocking out some authentication commands. You're like, what do you mean it's unrecognized? I'm in the right mode. You go into 3 different modes, still doesn't work. And then you go, oh yeah. So just one of those things. Just want to remind you one more time. Let's take a look at authentication options. And now we have our authentication options. The ones we're going to look at here are banner, fail message, password prompt, and username prompt. And we'll go ahead and start that with, let's start with the banner. That's really the most important. And it's the message text, misspelled there. It's the message text where C is a delimiting character. And I usually use a $sign for my delimiting characters. I wouldn't use a letter like, say, C, because if you happen to have a C in your message, that's where it's going to cut it off. So I like to use a $sign for mine. So we'll just say unauthorized users prohibited. I know, original thought, but that's what we're going with right now. So we've got our login banner set up. Let's go ahead and do a save on the way out. Go back to router 1. Let's go back to router 1. Let's try that again. And let's try telnetting over. And you see we do get that little banner right there before we even start to enter a username password. It says unauthorized users prohibited. I'm going to go ahead, just give me a second here. I'm going to go ahead and go through the 3 failed authentications here, because otherwise username is going to be sitting there for a while. And that should do it. So we get our 3 and then we get dropped back at the prompt, and that is it. So it's just that easy to put up a banner. And again, your legal department might want to get involved in that, exactly what you want to tell users right there, and that is a very good idea. So let's go back to our authentication commands. And we could put in failed message. Now you want to be careful about giving people too much information about what they're getting wrong here. Because I like the Cisco defaults. I'm kind of surprised they even have the username there for you to see, in clear text. I really like their defaults because when you fail to get in, you're not told why you failed to get in. You're not being told, well, the username is wrong, the password's fine, or vice versa. And the reason for that is that if I'm trying to get in illegally and I type in a username password combination that I think is right, let's say that I'm trying to guess what your convention is for your legitimate users, and I've got someone named Nancy Pepper, and I put in N Pepper for a username and then just any password. Well, if I get a message back that says, hey, your username was fine, but your password's wrong, then I know I've guessed the username naming convention. So there's a reason you're not getting a whole lot of information there. But I would just, if you put anything here, you might want to just put, did not match. Username password combination invalid. So let's try that and see if that worked out. So now let's try telnetting again. And we get an unauthorized users prohibited. We expected to see that. And I'm going to put in football for that, and then football again. And then we actually get the message, you know, username and password combination is invalid, because otherwise I could see where an inexperienced user might try to get in like this, and when it just goes down to username, let's take a look at what we got before. Actually, it does say authentication failed, so if they don't know what authentication failed means, they shouldn't be on your router in the first place. But if you want to fine-tune the message, you know, you can do it just like that. So I'll go ahead and get rid of the last two. And just one little thing about that password prompt command. Yeah, I should have just typed it. Authentication. One thing about the password prompt here. I know you're saying, what? One thing about the password prompt here. When you put this in, if you want a colon at the end of it, you need to put that in there. And I believe you're going to find the same with a space, but I wouldn't bother putting that in. But if you wanted to put, you know, password here, now let's see if it's going to let you do that. I don't think it's going to let you put in multiple letters. Well, yeah, it's one word. So if you wanted to do the old underscore trick, you could do that and just say password here. And I'll show you what I mean by the fact that that can look a little bit clumsy. Telnet in, there's my message, username, password here, but note that there is no colon here and there is no space here. So if I start typing something, especially for username, because the password you're not going to see. I'll just log right back out because I logged in correctly that time. Notice you do have to put your own colon in there and there's no space. So that can get a little clumsy here, as I think we're going to see here in a second. And let's go ahead and use the password, the username prompt option. And it's the same thing, word, text of prompt. And if you put username here and don't put anything else in there. Let's try that telnet one more time. And then when I start typing in, it's all crammed together. So that may be something you want to watch, because of course if I hit a space there and enter my password, then that's not going to be a match. So it's just a little detail to look out for. I said that's not going to pop up on your exam. They're not going to get that detail with this. But it is something for you to know for the real world as well. So again, out of the four, I'd say really the login prompt is the one you're going to use the most often out of all of these particular options with banner, fail message, password prompt, and username prompt. But all good stuff to know. So let us head for the next video. I'll see you there.